This program will demonstrate the use of a counter. A counter is a variable that either gets incremented or decremented each time a loop iterates or each time a loop repeats. So sometimes it's important to actually keep track of the number of times you go through a loop, and that's what a counter can be used for. So in this case, last num is going to keep track. Well, let me just explain what the program does. It'll display integer numbers and their squares. It's going to begin with the number 1 and end with whatever number the user requests. So if last num is entered by the user, and let's say they enter 5, it'll display the values 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the squares of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So num is being used in this case as a counter. It's going to start at 1 and it's going to increment all the way up until it's less than or until it's less than or equal to the last num, which is entered by the user. So you can see here the program will display a table of integer numbers and their squares starting with 1, and it'll ask the user what should the last number be, enter an integer. So the user enters it in. And then our counter, in this case, is num, is going to start at 1. They don't always have to start at 1, but in this example, it's going to start at 1. And our while loop is going to continue while our counter num is less than or equal to the last num entered by the user. And one thing that you'll note in the while loop, at some point, the counter gets incremented. So every time through the loop, the counter gets incremented or changed. So if I run this program, and I enter 5, you'll see here it'll display the number and the square, the number and the square. So my counter, or my num that gets displayed, is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, so you'll see here num starts at 1, then it became 2, then 3, then 4, then 5. I'm going to run this again, and I'll enter a different value for last num, and you'll see here that num was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 all the way down through 10, which was what last number was. So that's what counter variables are used for, to keep track of how many times you're actually going through a loop.